can try and win championships, and that's what it's all about. When you look from the outside and you watch this team, I know we're going to have a real good, solid hockey team this year.
Welcome back to Fireside Rangers. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Eric Wilson, and today we have a really interesting topic to discuss about our New York Rangers. It's a speculative topic, a rumor almost, not really even a rumor, but kind of us taking a look at a potential trade that we think could make sense for the Rangers, something that would be kind of a blockbuster move for the Rangers. It might be difficult for them to do with the salary cap space, but hear us out. It could work in some certain ways with some certain players going in the trades. And it would make a lot of sense for the Rangers to upgrade their defenseman position with Jakob Chychrun. I think that he is a player that the Rangers do need to explore trading for. Jakob Chychrun is a great defender, plays for the Arizona Coyotes. And while he's not necessarily openly on the trade block, there are rumors swirling around Arizona that potentially they will be listening to trade offers for Chychrun and for a bunch of their other players, really all of their best players. They're in a really bad salary cap space right now over in Arizona, and it's no dark secret that they are considering making some big trades this offseason. And Jakob Chychrun, there was a proposal recently sending him to the St. Louis Blues, so there are teams that are interested, and maybe the New York Rangers should get interested as well. That's what we think. So, Eric, how are you doing today, and what are your initial thoughts on potentially seeing the New York Rangers consider a trade for Jakob Chychrun?
What's going on? Obviously, I'm a big fan of Jakob Chychrun. I think the time that he spent in Arizona has been pretty well. Despite Arizona not being the greatest team in the league. You look at just this past season, he played in 47 games, so about like a little over half the season, and he picked up 7 goals for 14 assists with 21 points. Now, those numbers aren't crazy for a defenseman, but if you were to play the full season, you're looking at like a 40-point score as a defenseman. And while he isn't labeled as like an offensive type of defenseman, he still does put up points while he excels at defensive play. The only negative stat you look at for him this season was his minus 20 plus minus. But then you got to also just remember the fact that he did play on a terrible Arizona team, and that is the result of that. He's 24 years old. He's pretty young. The only real big issue is his contract. So if we wanted to clear up the cap space in order to trade for him, this wouldn't just be the Rangers trading picks to get him. It would be a couple of roster players and picks in order to clear up that cap space and make the trade worth it for Arizona.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think really a main point to recognize that you made is that he played for a really bad team in the Arizona Coyotes. They were bottom of the Central Division, actually just bottom of the Western Conference with only 25 total wins, the least amount of wins in the Western Conference. They are one of the worst teams in hockey. And Jakob Chychrun is not one of the worst players in hockey. He's actually a very good player, just playing on a very bad team. So when you look at his plus minus, it's going to be poor because of the team that he's playing on. But that's not really to slight him. That's not to say that he's a bad player or, the Coyotes are better off without him. He is a good player. It's just the Coyotes are that bad. But, this would be an expensive trade for sure. If the Rangers were to explore this trade, they're getting into the deep end of the pool. They're going to have to throw in some really big, players into the mix for this trade and maybe even some big draft picks as well. Taking a look at, somewhat similar, taking a look at that predicted trade for the St. Louis Blues, there was a big thing with potential 4th round pick, 1st round pick, and the 3rd round pick. So that's a lot of draft picks. And the Rangers don't even have that much of draft capital. They don't have a lot of picks in this year's draft. They don't even have a 1st round pick. So, Eric, what exactly would you think that if the Rangers were to pursue this trade and try and go after Jakob Chychrun, what would they have to give up to acquire him?
They would definitely have to give up a seasoned veteran roster line defenseman that we currently have. And lucky for us, that is something that we have a lot of right now. One name that I want to throw out there, Rangers fans might crucify me for this, but we should maybe consider trading Ryan Lindgren for Jakob Chychrun. Throughout this last season and throughout this playoffs, he was one of our best defensemen. But he hasn't always been like that. This is like sort of like a new thing that he's started doing, being like one of the top defensemen on our team. So my idea is maybe try to trade him while his like draft or like trade potential is high. He's hot, teams are interested in him, and while he's riding this wave of good play, maybe potentially trade him for a guy like Jakob Chychrun. He's been on our roster for the last couple of seasons, been very solid, and there's a very good chance that teams are looking at him. If you look at Ryan Lindgren's stats this season, he played in 78 games, but he only had 4 goals, 11 assists, and 15 points. You know, he's pretty much like the same type of player as Jakob Chychrun, more defensive minded rather than scoring and shooting the puck. But Jakob Chychrun also does have a lot of extra points to add on to his, stats. So I think definitely if we were to try to trade Ryan Lindgren and maybe throw in a couple picks just straight up for Jakob Chychrun, I think that's definitely a great trade that the Rangers might want to consider.
Yeah, so Lindgren and a couple picks. Maybe we're talking about third round picks, fourth round picks. What are you thinking on that regard?
It would definitely take a little more than that. I would probably say maybe 2 seconds and a third plus Lindgren. That's a very hefty trade. We'd be giving up a lot of potential for the future for this trade. But we would have Jakob Chychrun for the next couple of seasons. I believe a season longer than Ryan Lindgren's contract would be. Yeah, we'd have to throw in a lot, but I did think it definitely would be worth it in the long run.
Yeah, and one thing to note here is that, the Rangers, again, they don't have a first round pick this year, and their draft capital is spread a little bit thin. They're missing some picks in this year's draft, but next year they have a pretty good arsenal of draft picks to work with. And also, this is not, we recently discussed potentially trading for JT Miller as their second line center. And that was a really exciting video that we dove into. We really like to dive into all these trade rumors and possibilities. But with Jakob Chychrun and JT Miller, there's a difference because JT Miller basically would have been a 1-year loan and then he's a free agent again. It's a cup or bust. Not the case with Jakob Chychrun, actually, because he's still got a few years left on his contract. His contract does not expire until 2025. So the Rangers would be trading for 3 seasons of Jakob Chychrun. And additionally, those final 2 seasons on his deal, he has a no trade clause for those final seasons. But this year, he does not have a no trade clause. So this is the last year that Jakob Chychrun can just be willingly traded before he has a say in the matter. So, pretty much that's a really important detail to look at when you're talking about the Arizona Coyotes. If they want to trade him, they're going to have to trade him now. If they want to get value out of Jakob Chychrun, they're going to have to try and do it right now. Because let's say next year or the year after that, now they want to trade him. Okay, well, now he has the ability to say, no, screw you, I'm staying in Arizona. So that could also push the Arizona Coyotes to trading Jakob Chychrun this offseason. Again, an offseason where the Rangers might be taking a swing to the fences, trying to get the Stanley Cup. That's kind of what the basis was for the JT Miller discussion video that we had. If the Rangers really feel like they're just that one player away from making it to the Stanley Cup Finals and winning it all, raising the cup like the Avalanche just did, maybe they can make one of these trades. And Jakob Chychrun could also have a similar impact. He could be one of those players that really pushes them to that upper echelon, to the next level, and gets them past the Eastern Conference Finals. But there is another thing to note with this contract, Eric. It's expensive. $4.6 million cap hit per year. That's this year, next year, and the year after. And we do have some really important contracts expiring this offseason for sure, next offseason, and the season after. We're going to have to pay Kaapo Kakko, hopefully this offseason. You've got Philip Hedl coming up and a couple of other really important players for the Rangers. How much are you willing to sacrifice? Which players might you be willing to sacrifice in order to make this trade happen, Eric? And, does that $4.6 million cap hit say, no way, I can't even think about it?
Yeah, the number 4.6 is kind of scary because obviously, like you said, we have a lot of work that needs to be done this off season. But if you really think about it, in order to trade for a guy like Jakob Chychrun, like I said, you are going to have to get rid of some of your current roster players. I know just before I threw out Ryan Lindgren's name, you look at his contract; he's making $3 million. So if we were to trade him for Jakob Chychrun, we're really only adding on an extra 1.6 million on with cap space. Because you look at a couple other defensemen that we have on the Rangers. I've heard Braden Schneider, a rookie this year, his name has been thrown around in the mix a lot, but he's still only on his entry level contract. He's making less than $1 million per year. So if we were to trade away him and potential picks for a guy like Jakob Chychrun, that's when the cap that you're adding on is really a lot. So that's why if you wanted to throw away, trade away some lesser popular players like Braden Schneider, you'd have to add on a couple of them for a guy like Jakob Chychrun rather than a bigger name like Ryan Lindgren, where he can possibly just be like a 1-for-1 trade. So it's definitely going to take a lot, like we said. It's going to take a lot of magic from Chris Drury to pull this off if the Rangers do seem to be interested in a player like him.
Yeah, and when you're talking about, Braden Schneider and maybe a couple other low-key players, you're probably also talking about some big-time draft picks. You can probably wave goodbye to the 2023 first-round pick that the Rangers currently hold in order to make this trade happen. But personally, I don't know, you're trading a 2023 first round pick and you're getting Jakob Chychrun until 2025. The Rangers' window of opportunity really is right now. If they're going to win, they're going to win now within the next 3 years. So it might be worth sacrificing that first round pick or maybe a second round pick in order to get Chychrun and have a star left-handed shooting defenseman in your first line for the next 3 years. So definitely something to consider. Not sure how realistic this trade speculation episode is. Jakob Chychrun, while he does have a trade market, the Rangers, again, have under $12 million in cap space, and they do have some players that they need to re-sign. We've discussed a few of those players on this channel, so make sure to go check out some of our previous videos. Got some really good ones discussing other trade rumors and opportunities like this one with JT Miller. But we've also talked about Kaapo Kakko, Ryan Strome, Andrew Kopp. Who should the Rangers re-sign this offseason? We're going to continue to update you all right here on Fireside Rangers about all those topics and continue to deliver you with some really interesting trade rumors and speculation videos like this one. So make sure to subscribe if you're new, ring the bell so you don't miss a video. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video, and let us know down in the comment section below. Would you like to see this trade happen? Do you think it's possible? Do you think we're crazy? Let us know, because we might just be crazy. So let us know how crazy we are in the comment section below. But anyways, that'll wrap this one up. Have a good one, and let's go Rangers.
Let's go Rangers.
He shoots. He scores. Rangers.